It's not a question of, is AI going to impact jobs or change jobs? Like, that's happening. The question is how?
I think that whole phrase, hey, someone who knows AI is going to replace you, they were saying that in like a nice way to make people feel good, but it's just not the truth. You've got to figure out what are the elements of my job that are safe, double down on that, and where can I use the tech?
Where I'm seeing the evolution is like, how do you think about structuring data and turning that to information, turn that information into insights, the insights into knowledge, and the knowledge into wisdom to deliver what you need?
I think there is an advantage in moving fast, because when you move fast right now, you can learn.
Joel Lalgee and Marcus Sawyer welcome you to AI and Recruiting, the show where they break down how AI is transforming hiring, leadership, and the future of work. Expect real talk, smart tools, and bold conversations with the people shaping what's next. Let's get into it.
Welcome in, everybody. It is good to be back. I feel like in AI, it's been like 20 years since we've been live. How long has it been?
It's been a while, right?
It feels like it's been probably about a month and a half.
Yeah, how you been?
I have been good. I would love to know who's out there. I know I jumped in the chat here and asked you guys, but if you're willing to let us know who's out there, I'd love to know your name, location, company. And then as we're going through the show, this is interactive. We are live. Marcus is there. He's not AI. I'm not AI. This is live. We haven't recorded this. So if you have questions, you got comments, let us know. I can see my camera's kind of gone out of focus here. But Mark, why don't you get us started? Let us know what you've been up to past month or so.
Wow. Like you said, in the age of AI, a month moves fast. Lots going on, lots of building, lots of customer interactions, bit of travel in the last month. So that's one of the reasons I think we missed each other. So
Yeah.
I was in London for a little bit, and yeah, just soaking it all in. And there's also been a lot of external announcements that have happened as well, right? Out like in the world of AI, every day there's something new. So
Every
excited
day.
to dive in. Yeah.
Every day.
How about you?
Wild. I think we met after Transform, but I had Transform in March. That was a great time getting together. In end of April, going into May, I had ERE, which is a recruitment conference. Got the opportunity to speak. Actually led, I probably owe you this, but I got the chance to lead like an AI conversation. Room full of
Nice.
recruiters, room full of practitioners, just asking the question, like, how are you practically using AI? I thought it was great. We had somebody like building like a custom GPT on stage. One thing I noticed is the more we talked about it, the better the conversation became, because people felt comfortable. At the beginning, they were like, I don't want to say the wrong answer, or I don't
Sure.
want to not look like I don't know what I'm talking about. But then as we just talked about things more, it went well. So I went to that, and then I had Unleash, which was also back in Vegas. I've just been living in Vegas. Didn't have much work to do, which was great, but got to listen to some interesting conversations, just meet up with people. So it was good.
What was a big takeaway? So like, if you're thinking about all the different, I suppose, conferences, interactions that you've had, what's the main takeaway?
I think there's a lot of excitement and buzz around AI for people who are like engrossed in AI and are experimenting, doing a lot of things we talk about, like getting curious, playing around with things, like aren't afraid to experiment. But there's definitely that tense feeling when it comes up, especially around more so recruiting, I think, than HR. I think with HR, there isn't as much of that nervousness, but definitely with recruiting, I think there is that feeling of like, all right, I'm walking into the vendor room and seeing end-to-end recruiting solutions and vendors that are promising to replace certain functions. So, there's definitely that tense. So it's kind of mixed. What are you kind of sensing when you go to these events?
Well, I haven't really been to any recently. We've been speaking to customers kind of in the field more so.
So with customers, what's your kind of sense where things are at market-wise, future-wise, tech-wise?
Let's say a couple weeks that's missed. There's a quantum leap. The big thing that I'm noticing is that people are trying to get their arms around what's actually happening and cutting through the noise. So that's like the high level, like what is real and what is fake. There is a sense that there's application. So it's not a question of, is AI going to impact jobs or change jobs? Like, that's happening. The question is how. And the question is in what part of the workflow and the process. And then if the The other question, I'm not really hearing it from those that are doing it because they're in the driving seat. So they're like driving the car, they're driving the vehicle. But I am hearing from those that are not really involved in it, trying to figure out where they fit in. Meaning, like, if they haven't really used it and they don't understand the capabilities, they're not really getting it. I think on the other side, in terms of what we're hearing from a lot of customers, everyone's trying to automate as much as possible. And I use the word automate deliberately because it can be AI and doesn't have to be AI. And it's trying to figure that out. So that's like on the customer side. Like, people want to be more efficient. They want to be more effective. I think that the market has got a lot of volatility at the moment. So people are trying to figure out how to be more productive and do more with less as an organization and as a company. So, and our customers are staffing and recruiting firms, but they're also actually companies that you think would get automated by AI. They're outsourced providers. So that's a lot of our customers. So they outsource and they're now also using AI on top.
Well, we're going to jump into the newsletter, and I want to encourage everybody to, as we kind of run through the newsletter, which always includes like real life use cases, also questions you need to be asking, observations, and then also has like a wrap up of the news as well. And you can access that. Like I just put it in the chat on the live. It's on Substack, so you can subscribe to that. I think you got 20,000 subscribers on there as well. Really good engagement on that newsletter. But jump in there, but we'll talk about some of the news that's coming down. And I want to just say hi to Felipe out there as well. Good to see you. And Rob.
Yep.
Curious, one of the things you mentioned in the newsletter is this whole idea of showing up where the friction is. I feel like we've talked about this before, but how critical is it, and how do you work with clients to figure out where is the friction, and like what does that process look like? I think this is something that it comes up a lot and we talk about it, but like how do you actually get to that point where you go, this is where the friction is in my business, in the process? What's your methodology and workaround with that?
It's been a journey because I think that you can get enamored by the capability of the technology. And it's like, wow, it can do this thing. It can talk, it can speak, it can go back and forth. And then you lose sight of what you're trying to solve. So our experience has been full circle, if you like. So we started, just for those that don't know, we started EQ as a community first. I was a global president of innovation for the Adecco Group prior to that. I was a career builder before that in the job board space. So kind of been 2 decades in from convincing people to say, look, advertise online instead of in a newspaper. Like, that was like the first thing I was trying to convince people to do.
They're like, the internet's a fad. The internet's never going to be anything. That's probably what it was.
I've realized like who I am over the last 20 years in recruiting. And then the next phase was, hey, like maybe you want to think about using, I don't know, a place where you can track your information, like a CRM or an ATS. So that was a phase 2 when I was buying companies and investing like the processing of big data. And this act 3, if you like, is convincing people that there's an opportunity to leverage AI, but it's very nuanced because the AI is more of the intelligence, or potentially could be the intelligence versus the system. So it can do some parts of the work, whereas a system were to store some of the work in the ATS, like let me show what I'm working on and track it. There's a bit of an evolution. So that's like, I'm talking about like over the last 18 years, but in the last 4 years, we built EQ as a community first. So we believe in community, and we're a permanent placement recruiting business. So we were living in the trenches doing the placements. And then we were using AI in the background. But more recently, the last 2 years, we built some products. So we built products that, hey, try our product, try EQ Buddy, right? Like, and we have users that use that, and it's like a co-pilot.
Yeah,
right?
I use it.
Yeah.
I use it.
And that was the first act. But what's evolved from that is more into, as we've heard, of the agentic workforce, agents. And for those that probably heard me say this over and over again, I see an agent have really a few characteristics. One of the characteristics for the agents is an objective. So what are you trying to achieve? And then the second is the tasks. How are you going to do it? And the third are the tools. So I call that OTT, objectives, tasks, and tools. Now, if you can give someone or something, in this case, a brief and a way to deliver on that, they can produce work. So it goes back to the question of like, well, how do you get people to understand? It's like, well, what work do you want to get done? It's hard to answer that question if you're the one that's doing the work, right? Because you're not going to say that you want to automate yourself out of a job. So really, we're working with a lot of the senior leadership and those who are also kind of thinking about what's next, to help them think through, What is the outcome you want, not the tactics? Because those tactics, you can rip them up and throw them out, and we can do the work slightly differently. And the final thing I'll say, what does that look like for our business? It was product, then consulting, like what do you want to try and get done? Now we're in the solutions phase of here are some products and services that we know that work after working with hundreds of clients. So we're now in that phase to actually deliver recommendations on what you should do, because we've seen some similar things before.
From that staffing recruitment world, what are some of the common problems that you're seeing and some of the outcomes that people want? Obviously, you're going to see some trends with that. What are some of the most common trends that you're seeing?
It's inbound recruiting, so processing applications at scale has been a challenge that people want to solve. Outbound is like identifying and reaching out to passive candidates. So the inbound, if you're a large recruiting firm, like you get a ton in, like we got one client's like 597 jobs. Out of the 597 jobs, they're probably getting 10 applications per job, 6,000 applications per month per job, 72,000 a year. They're not going through all of those, but they're still going outbound. Wouldn't it say that you've actually got some good candidates that are inbound?
Yeah.
So having AI work through that. So it's really solving those problems. The other part of it as well is like going out and finding, sourcing, screening, and scheduling. And those are like the other areas, like, can you find me the candidates? Okay, now you found me relevant candidates, but are they interested? Now they're interested. Are they verified? Like, are they who they say they are? So those are some of the areas that we've been working on. And the inbound side has been really interesting. It's like re-engaging your current database. There's gold in the database, and it's about data flows and matching the data and the information. So these are like key problems that people wanted to solve a long time ago. So it's less about like the AI replacing you, but it's more about where does your data flow to? We're spending less time building like UIs and more time building a hardcore AI infrastructure that connects to your systems and integrates so you can get the output that you want. And that output might look like a relevant and interested candidate that wants to talk to you, or the output might look like a scheduled meeting with a client. And so that's all you see at the end. So you can spend time building relationships. So we've really kind of looked back like, what is the end thing that you're trying to get to, irrespective of the systems that you have? And I think a lot of the small, medium-sized firms are able to move faster because they don't have big systems in place at the moment. So we're spending a lot of time in the back end of the data flows.
How important do you think it is to take advantage of the fact that you can move faster to get the advantage now? And do you see a point where more people have access to similar tools? Are you thinking about what are those challenges going to be in the future? Let's say everybody has similar capabilities. I mean, I know you've been building, maybe haven't thought about that, but I'm just kind of curious to get your thoughts on that.
Well, but I think the same principles apply of anything, right? The technology has actually been around, not the GPT, but AI has been around for a long time.
Yeah.
So it's not about the technology, it's about the application. So again, we're seeing less of a race. One thing I am seeing changing is like when we first started to build our AI models a couple of years ago, I was like, oh, can't tell anyone what models we're using. And that doesn't matter because it's about the data. And it's about the data to then train those models. And so where I'm seeing the evolution is like, how do you think about structuring data and turning that to information, turn that information into insights, the insights into knowledge, and the knowledge into wisdom to deliver what you need? And so I think it's less about who's got the best tool. It's about who can use it, right? Like, look, you give me a Ferrari, you give Lewis Hamilton a Ferrari, I ain't going to beat him. It doesn't matter if I've got a Ferrari or not, right? Like, it's just not going to work. And so you have to understand how to use the tools and what the application is. So I think that we're going to see more at the application layer, which will say, hey, we can do this end to end for you, but do what exactly?
Yeah.
And that's why I think the real recruiting practitioners have a huge opportunity. I mean, when you go around the halls at the moment, when you go around the vendor halls, what do you see? And then what do you hear from the clients? Like, what do the clients say versus what is being shown?
I think there's a lot of skepticism from practitioners right away. And then usually it's, well, you don't have any background in the industry. That's a big thing that comes up. And I think with the vendors, a lot of times it's a 1-point solution. Usually it's the 1-point solution they're solving, and they haven't thought about the whole process or where other systems are in play and like how they fit into that system. And then usually there's two spectrums of excitement. There's like a, hey, we're going to change the game with this point solution. And then a practitioner going, yeah, well, 20 years ago we had the same thing and it hasn't necessarily made recruitment easier. Kind of what I see in it, which I think is a challenge to sell into that.
I think you're going to have kind of two types of firms moving forward that exist. And I think that you're going to, so you're asking, do you think about like how does this impact, like with the arms race? You're going to have like default AI end-to-end firms that can do it end-to-end for certain types of recruiting. That is going to happen. There's no question. Not like zero question in my mind. And those that say that's not, like they haven't seen what I've seen.
Yeah.
Right. And then there's going to be those firms.
Real quick, I was gonna ask, when you say end-to-end, like an end-to-end
everything.
solution,
It'll be done. Everything.
screening, interview,
everything. Joel.
offer,
everything.
Yeah. Okay.
Everything.
Yeah.
You heard it here. I will tell you that is going to be done end to end. Now, recruiting is made up of, there's 20 plus thousand recruiting firms in the US, 16,000 in the UK. Why do they all exist? Because it's all slightly different. And so you can get generalist stuff done, but the recruiting firms that made a lot of money or made a big splash, or the reasons why in-house teams call them, is because they specialize. So you're going to have generalist AI done end to end. You're going to have highly specialized recruiting firms that are going to be powered by AI with the data flows. And then you'll have some of the executive search where their margin is going to get eroded. It's going to get eaten because they charge too much. That is what we're seeing. That's the reality of how it's going down with the conversations that we're having. But in the end, the way to protect those margins is relationships and trust. So if you don't have relationships and trust, it's not going to happen. The capabilities are there, they exist. There'll be some end-to-end players. We've already seen parts of it, but it's like, do you trust them? And do you have a relationship with them? So ultimately, the buyers are going to decide. And the buyers they're actually on both sides, the employers. That is the buyer. Who's going to employ you in-house? Who is going to be the employer that uses your recruiting services?
Yeah.
Those are the buyers. So it's going to be down to like what the buyers need and want. And if they think they need someone highly, we're working on like a head of medical affairs position, right? Super highly specialized. Like now that could have gone to a search firm, 100K plus for the fee. Now they want to try a different approach. That will happen time and time again. Now, if it doesn't work, they're not going to want to try a different approach. Already, we're able to show, here's the market, here's how many people exist, here are the ones with contact details within a couple of hours.
It looks like Felipe's heading out. Maybe it looks like that. But he did ask a question, and I am curious about this as well. The outbound. So I think his question was around the part I don't see working well yet is recruiting the passive candidates. That's not what I'm hearing from you, though. What I'm hearing from you is like it actually does work pretty well with passive candidates, or it can work well.
So the part I don't see well because is a passive candidates.
So almost like the headhunting, like they're going out, right? And like going out and getting people versus the inbound.
What I'm saying is generalist recruiting. If you say passive, then at what level? Are we talking about CEO? Are we talking about mid-level staff? Are we talking about entry level? The passive candidates all need to be warmed up by someone reaching out. How do you reach out?
It's usually text-based, isn't it? Yeah.
Right.
Could be a cold call too.
Could be a cold call, absolutely. If you want to reach out to a CEO for a role, cold call, it's not going to work. It's not going to work at any level. Identifying who they are and identifying when to reach out to them, that already happens with your phone when you think your phone is listening to you and you get a personalized message. It's just targeted. So that's where the AIs can add value, but you're going to need someone with trust that's going to pick up the phone, have that conversation and move them along. The end-to-end recruiting will be done with the AI, like the actual recruiting, but the relationship building is not going to change. Like at that level, at senior level, if you're buying something super expensive, but you can't charge then for the same margins because you're not doing the same job. That's why the margin gets eroded. So like, how can you charge 200K for a role, which should take you 5 minutes to actually provide the market map? And if you don't know who's in the market, then you don't have access to the information. And some of the AIs do. So I just think like the kind of charging model is going to evolve and change.
Rob, I've just said it's really helpful. Thank you for sharing it. As a millennial working closely with a boomer and Gen Xer in a small firm, I value insights like this. Give me some perspective and useful talking points. Glad that's helpful. Yeah, I think.
So you've just joined the search firm. So how do you feel about that? I saw your face evolve when we were talking. You like,
no,
tell me, like,
I think my thought with everything is, I think the trust, the brand, and being able to get conversations is a premium. And so I think where my mind goes with just AI in general, I mean, there's a video generator now, which is like really great. Half of my business is making videos. So then do I go, well, my job's going to be over. I could look at it like that. Then I also think trust, brand, and relationship. And like it's a culmination of a lot of things. Now, I think in person starts to become a lot more valuable. And we've talked about this, right? Like going to events. In person, I think that trust and credibility and how you build that matters more. And so I think it just everything evolves. So when I hear about like I did just join a search firm, right? And I look at that and go, okay, well, what's the value in that? Well, the owner of the firm, he spent 15 years building those relationships. Someone entry level isn't going to suddenly come in and go, oh, now I've got access to AI. I can do the same thing. It's like well, they can do certain parts of it, but like you said, the relationship and trust is everything. And then also, like with Rob saying here, it's like he's working with a lot of boomer and Gen X's, for example. You know, it's like we're on the forefront right here. So we're looking at like what's possible. There might be a window of time where there's like an evolution with things, right? Like what do people trust? What do people do? Because there's still people. I mean, LinkedIn is still out there selling LinkedIn recruiter seats. So there's people who don't even use LinkedIn recruiter, you know?
It's so nuanced, and this is why we need the discussion, right? Because there will be search firms that win,
Yeah.
but the structure of it is going to be different. And the reason I can say that with huge confidence is if anybody tomorrow with no infrastructure and knew about AI, knew what we were doing, and knew recruiting, and they would set up a firm tomorrow, they wouldn't structure the firm in the same way as 5 years ago. The challenge is if an AI firm sets up, they can erode margin. So I don't know if you've heard the famous saying from Jeff Bezos and how he set up Amazon is your margin is my opportunity. When there's big margin, you start to question that when you're doing that at scale. So if you're placing people and it's costing 150K and you're placing 100 people, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
The question will be, can you do this faster? Can you do this less expensive? Is it possible for it to be better? If you hit 2 out of the 3, it's up for grabs.
Yeah.
So I think that and it's like, look, it's not AI is going to take your job. It's the person using AI is going to take, like, yeah, cool, whatever. It's the firm, right? How do you structure? How have you structured the organization to leverage this new technology? How are you bringing that in? Because your customers are going to ask, and be like, well, why am I paying this still? Like, that's the reality of it. Like, and they're going to continue to ask because they're looking for a better deal. And you know why they're looking for a better deal? Because internally they're being told they need to use AI. And so, like, that's a bit of the challenge at the moment. These small firms, there's these leader lists, these small firms, tiny firms, they are gaining ground at scale. It's going to be down to the buyers. If you have got a deep relationship with the buyers and you know a few people, like I saw somebody doing search for like wealth management, and they reached out to me. I think it was one of somebody. He's got the relationships. That's not going anywhere anytime soon.
No.
You can't just knock on the family office and say, "Hey, like, can we do some deals?" Like, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah.
I think that's what evolves, right, too, is like, how do you build new relationships? How do you build trust? Because at the same time, it's across the board that everybody's getting a lot of reach out now. It's not just in recruiting, it's sales too. I mean, you're a business owner. Think about the amount of like volume that you get. It's like everything's evolving. It's continuing to evolve as well. I think the advantage of being a smaller company versus the large companies is like you said, it's like, and I think Shalon just said it here. He said,
I love this thing you're doing, by the way. We haven't talked about it. It's pretty cool. You're popping up there.
So my firm is small and it's true. We've been able to add mini AI agents in the recruiting process, allowing our employees to search and retain data feed in our repository. All automation we have been able to build and helping for sure. I think there is an advantage in moving fast because when you move fast right now, you can learn and you're able to learn. And you know, I think you mentioned it in the newsletter, which guys, if you scroll up, I did put the link for the newsletter in the chat. This is part of the EQ App AI community, the AI business update. One of the pieces of news was, I think it was Fiverr CEO. Was it Fiverr CEO that said this about if you're not using AI tools in your workflow, you're already behind. But I feel like there's been a flurry of leadership right now. Also, the other thing we've seen is AI hiring freeze. And it kind of goes back to your point of, I think that whole phrase, hey, you know, someone who knows AI is going to replace you. They were saying that in like a nice way to make people feel good, but it's just not the truth. You've got to figure out what are the elements of my job that are safe, double down on that, and where can I use the tech?
We are going through I'll coin it, the great restructure.
Yeah.
Everything is up for grabs. Everything is restructured. You know why we know that? Every time a job is created, you're looking for that job. Could you do that with AI or not?
Was it the Upwork CEO? actually said that in order to hire someone, you have to show that it can't be done by AI.
So yes, there might have been somebody that said that as well. Many people have said, but if you're in a senior leadership position, you're thinking that. What then happens? If there are less roles going to be done by humans, and if you're recruiting internally, the amount of recs that you have is going to start to go down. If you don't have an overflow of recs, then those recs don't go externally. And so if those recs don't go externally, then you've got less recs.
Yeah.
Now, if you've got less recs, there are firms, there'll still be recs, still jobs. There'll be not one firm that can get, there'll probably be one or two firms now that get access to 10 recs, when before there might be 50 recs and you can share it between one or two firms. Then the pricing model starts to evolve because those firms can, so it's just if you follow the money, you start to see how it's going to evolve. Now, out of that, the companies that are successful will go into a growth phase again. They will determine what the new wave of jobs are. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. The jobs that are likely to be eroded by AI are the jobs that have been created by computers in the first place, because they're best set to do that. That's why you're seeing the software engineers go down. Now, if you look at Microsoft's announcement, let go 6%, 3,000 people, something like that. It was around that. Why does that matter? Well, some people were saying, it's not the AI. You could be right. If you go on their site, and I looked on their site, let me see if I can find it. If you can pull it up, if you can share a screen. Look how many jobs they've got. They've still got about 1,000 jobs, okay? So why did you let go of all of those people? Did you let go of them because they weren't performing? Probably not. It's because you're restructuring.
Yeah.
It's like a team, your team done well, this is my team do so well. Who are the best players? How do you organize
Mohamed
them?
Salah.
How do you structure that team, right? So everyone's trying to restructure their team. And that's where staffing and recruiting firms and HR and recruiting leaders and heads of TA can come into play. You are then advising how to structure the firms. You're building teams for people. You're not just trying to get the random rec. Those days are over. You have to be an advisor. You have to add value.
Obviously, you're an advisor. You're a business leader. You're somebody who's been in these positions. What advice do you have for people who hear advisor and they're like, I don't even know, how do I become an advisor? How do you need to change the way you're thinking, right? Because you kind of alluded to it. You're not just filling the role, right? You're advising the business on how you should grow. So how do you get to that point?
You say, look, business leader, but when I was 23, I was a career builder. I haven't talked about this actually, but
good, it's an exclusive.
At some point, I became the most successful sales rep across Europe for the company. So I got these awards, and I've got the award up here. I run President's Club a couple of times. I was talking to a friend of mine, and we were talking about great salespeople because I kind of forgot why that happened. I deeply cared about how my clients done. I really did, because I thought if their business done well, I would do well. I was betting on some clients to do well. I've got clients that are still friends from back in the day. How did I do that? I noticed one of my CEOs at the time, one of the presidents, what they were doing and what they advised, and we had some really good training, was always in every interaction, add value. Every interaction. Don't take. So every email you send out an email with an update, with some information, with some insights. You just keep doing that. So when they see your name come in, they're like, oh yeah, I want to open this message because it's going to be pretty useful. If you do that on a consistent basis, it compounds. When that compounds, people look to you as an advisor. And then you assume their position as an advisor. Don't always try and take off. We've said this time and time again, give people value. If you do that for 6 months, the amount of opportunities that will come your way because you're being thought of, it's the same like networking. So just try and add value. And how can you do that? You've got to learn. So you've got to put some time aside, say, right, I'm going to dive in on this particular topic.
I've noticed this in just training recruiters. One of the things I train people on is to create content around the news, right? Create content around things that are going to impact the people's businesses that you're trying to reach, right? So, okay, CEOs, what do they care about? Well, they care about how government policy changes are going to impact their business. They care about, how tariffs is a great example, right? How is a tariff going to impact your clients? They also care about what's the market like, who's doing things. Now, the problem is they don't necessarily have the time to focus on those things. And a lot of times as recruiters, it's we actually have the time to do research, to ask questions, to understand what's going on in the market. And I've asked that a couple times in training, go, well, what news sources are you following? And there's been several times where I've asked that and people have been like, I don't know. What should I
Yeah.
be reading? And I'm like, well, being an advisor, like you said, it's being curious, it's learning, and it's adding value. But it's hard to add value if you're not aware of what's going on, right? Unless
The,
they come to
the,
you and go, what's the competition doing? Feel like, I
the,
don't know. I'm just trying to, you got a rec for me to work on?
the news is a funny one. I'll double click on that. I'll tell you why the news is a weird one. I was listening to a podcast a couple of days ago from AZ16. They talked about meme culture. And unfortunately, like the news follows what's on social media. So you're actually behind the news circle in terms of what's being talked about.
Interesting.
Okay, so you can trend before the news, right? Let's talk about that. Then there are facts. Okay, but like, so maybe that's what it is, right? Maybe it's not news. Maybe it is finding facts. Be a fact finder. So we provided somebody with some information just yesterday on this, like, medical affairs officer, and like we could tell that they really liked the information because it was like, okay, how many people exist in the market? How many people have this degree? How many people have contact details? How many people we find? You're not going to get that really anywhere. So it's market insights. And I subscribed, and this is not like any promotion. I used to do this before when I was a DEFCON crew. I subscribed to Bloomberg the other day again. And the reason being there's so much noise, and I wanted to have a news source that I could see that was doing some original reporting and getting information out. The other thing we used to do a lot, and I'm banging on now, but like the research side, we used to review all of the annual reports for every company. That stuff is still hidden. You can go on their website, type in investor relations, read through the annual reports, understand what's going on. If you share that across customers, those are insights. So I think that just kind of like decoupling news between insights is important to add value.
Yeah.
Because you're going to know something that someone else doesn't know, right?
And it's those insights. It's like being able to understand how those insights are going to impact your clients, your customers. That's valuable, right? Because a lot of people just don't have time. Like you even said, a lot of people
they don't create time. It's not they don't have time. We all have 24 hours, right? Like it's like they don't create time.
No, and they're focused on the business, what's going on in the business. Hey, I've got this fire to put out, this fire to put out. And as a recruiter, a lot of times they are coming to you and they're asking, what are you seeing in the market? What are you seeing from other clients as well? I think the recruiters who struggle to have those insights, like say, I love that insights. I love that. And like, how can you use technology to free your time up to be able to look in those insights as well? We're at about time here. I'm surprised my kids are not screaming. And we had a couple of the comments on here as well. It looks like Rob had to go off. We had another comment here. Just you're asking for your insights on or your thoughts on how to mitigate the challenge of using AI to find candidates that is 90% aligned with the role, but the 10% is what costs the business money. What are your thoughts on that?
I think the thing with AI today, two things. It's the worst it's ever going to be. That's what I always say. So it's going to keep getting better. And so you can't fully rely on it. You want to be able to inspect what you expect. Getting you 90% along the way allows you to spend 10% 10 more times. So therefore, you're going to be able to deliver faster. I think I would always review everything you're sending. I was with somebody last week, their grant writer. They were doing grants for non-for-profits. And I wrote about this in the newsletter, actually. And we had a really good discussion because Chris was able to inspect what he expected because he's been writing grants for years. And so he knows what good looks like. So I think if you can get 90% along the way, that would be helpful. If you're setting up a brand new desk, it's also quite useful if you're learning to get you there. But I think that the risks at the moment is as we talked about earlier, the risk and opportunity is speed. You can either be too fast and you could crash, you can be not fast enough and you can get caught up. And that's the race that we're in today.
I love that. And there've definitely been some people moving really fast that have crashed big time as well.
It's dangerous when you move fast. It's not.
But it's like the opportunity for reward is great as well, right? So
yeah. And somebody said this to me the other day, actually, which I think was really took to it, which was like slow down to speed up. So do an evaluation, everything you're doing, where you're spending time, make sure that you've got the foundation clear so then you can go faster.
I love it. Well, look, where can people connect with you? What's the best place to find you? Where can we find out, get all those insights as well?
LinkedIn is an easy place to connect on.
I hate that place.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Yeah. Our Substack, if you want to go direct, which you can sign up for free to our community. We've got 20,000 subscribers. And
drop that in the link.
Yeah. It is the EQ App AI community. And we write every week. Now, used to be every couple of weeks, talk about what's going on in the space. If you want like AI, as somebody asked for tools, if you want tools, we're probably not the best place for that. There's like so many of those places for tools. We kind of talk a little bit more deeply around where the opportunities are, how you should think about what the mental models are. We do throw some tools in there that we use outside of it, but not specifically for recruiting, more how we should think about what the mindset. So you can decide what tools you have. And there are obviously some that we'll mention moving forward. That's probably the best place. How about you, Joel? Tell people where they can find you on every social media platform.
If I'm not on your social media channels, I mess up. I actually just put EQQ.app, but it's EQ.app as well. Check that out. The question about tools that I find interesting is I don't think we should be focused on necessarily individual tools. Like obviously if you're running a business and you have to pick tools, I think, yeah, figure out what your tech stack is. But we're trying to learn about AI holistically to know like what are the actual things past the tool? Because all tool is doing is solving a problem. What we're trying to figure out is how do we find those problems, right? And how can AI enable us to be better at business, really?
And I always nuance you a little bit, but like it's not even solving a problem, the tool. All the tool is the mechanism to try and solve the problem, right? Because like if you think of what a tool actually is, if I give you a hammer or a spanner, and like what are you going to do with it? Depends on the context. There are tools out there for some of the practitioners, but really it's about what, to your point, what problem are you trying to solve and what's the end solution and how do you work back, which has really been our approach because the tools are kind of like putting a Band-Aid on something.
Yeah.
There's no silver bullets.
Exactly. And I've seen, I think what's become apparent to me is do me a favor, anyone out there, go to a conference this year, take note of who's there vendor wise, and then go to the same conference the next year or go to another conference like maybe a year later. And literally you will see different tools and different things. So it's like, it's an ecosystem that's constantly changing. What we're trying to understand is just like how is AI impacting the world of business as well. And I think that's what I love about the newsletter is it gives just those insights and then trying to help people think differently as well. So, and I would also say if you go to eq.app, the eq.app, check out just some of the resources there as well. Definitely we get in contact with Marcus if you are staffing agency, business, anyone who's interested in recruitment and HR, reach out to Marcus, connect with him on LinkedIn as well. And I'd say with me, if you want to reach out to me, just find me on LinkedIn. I'm maxed out on connections, but if you send me a connection request and then put in there, saw you on the AI and recruiting show, I'm happy to connect with you. Just have to kind of field those connections. We'll be live again in 2 weeks. And going forward, if one of us can't make it, the other one's going to be here. So we're going to make sure that the show's continuous. And then we'll just follow through and just make sure that we're having good conversations here as well. So I think we had like 20 people at peak here, which is great for a LinkedIn Live. And then for anyone who's listening afterwards as well, if you found value, reach out to both of us. We'd love to chat more.
Thanks for everyone joining. You can find also all of our live streams and all the previous ones that we've done on our AI community. So I think you put the link in the link there already, so we can do that. Perfect. Thanks, Joel. Good catching up as always.
Always good catching up, man. Can't wait till the next session. And if you guys have questions, comments, get in the chat. Let us know. If there's other topics you want to talk about as well, let us know. We're both happy to hear from you. See you guys.
Talk to you soon. Cheers.
Right.
If you got value from today's episode, share it with someone in your network, your team, your boss, or that recruiter still stuck in 2015. Be sure to follow the show so you never miss what's next in hiring and AI. Until next time.